Assalamualaikum, my name is Arfat and welcome to a brand new video. Today I begin a brand new series, and that is I will go through the Quran, juice by juice. I'll kind of narrate to you the history behind the Quranic verses. I'll not be going through every single verse for verse because that would take a very long time. So what I'll do here in this series, inshallah ta'ala, is I'll dedicate one video for every juice. I'll try my best to do that. And if time does not permit, then I'll probably do part 1 and part 2, or even part 3 per juice. And I'll be using materials from the Study Quran. I truly recommend this for people who want to learn about the Quran, who is studying the Arabic language, so that they can read the Quran and recite the Quran in the future, inshallah ta'ala, if Allah wills. We can all strive to learn the Arabic language because we're not native Arabic speakers. Even those who speak Arabic will find that the Quran is written or revealed in a very different kind of Arabic. It is not like common Arabic whereby people speak. Even the Quraysh of the past doesn't speak the Arabic that the Quran was revealed in. And so this is also a challenge for the Arabs, and I've spoken to a couple Arabs about this. But my mission here is to someday be able to read the Quran and understand completely without the need to use translation. I'm still at the very beginning of my Arabic language learning, and for those of you who wants to learn Arabic, as teachers advise, as my peers who know Arabic, they advise me, is that you will still need to go back to the Quran, like the grammar and things like that. They all depend on the Quran. And so the Quran is the basis for those who wish to learn to speak Arabic or to be able to understand the Quran without the need of translation. And so the Quran is the starting point, and it should be the starting point for every Muslim. Again, the Quran is difficult to read at first, at least for me. When I was learning the Quran with my ustaz, when I was when I was a young kid, I always dreaded going to the lesson, private lesson, because it was so difficult to read the Quran, and it was so difficult to write the Arabic script. Even today, I'm still learning to write the Arabic script, to write nicely, because my handwriting, even in the English language, which is my native, I just don't have a good handwriting. And so I tend not to write with my hand nowadays, because I have a lot of people who told me that, man, your handwriting is horrible. It is horrendous. And even when I write in English, moreover when I write in Arabic, even my mom could hardly understand what I wrote, and she knew Arabic very, very well. And so Juz 1 open with Surah Al-Fatiha, and that is the opening. And it is similar to the New Testament, Luke and Matthew, the Lord's Prayer. I would say it is much more similar to Matthew, who has the shorter version. Luke has the longer version. But Al-Fatiha is basically like a dua. A dua is like a supplication that we ask God to guide us to the straight path, and not to let us astray to the path of those who will attain eternal wrath. Now the Quran here is very explicit. It is saying that you attain heaven. No, you don't attain heaven. You attain eternal wrath or eternal judgment. Basically, what that means is that because of your deeds or misdeeds, it guides you to heaven, or it guides you to eternal damnation, which is hell. So it depends on your deeds, or what you do, because human beings have been given free will, and it's up to them to use it to a better purpose, or to towards an evil purpose. Now, it is very important here as to people who try to reason whereby, well, I give charity and things like that, but I don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how can God condemn me to hell because I do a lot of good deeds? Now we will get to that in this series, inshallah ta'ala, but a brief comment here will suffice, and that is, the only acceptable religion in Islam is is Islam. The only acceptable religion in the eyes of God is Islam, and that is the Quranic claim. And the Quran even claimed that Abraham, Moses, Noah, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all, they are all Muslims. Now, certain things need to be made clear here. Jews don't believe the word Muslim or Islam basically means those who supplicate themselves to the will of God, meaning they have been given free will. Human beings have been given free will, but we chose to obey God, and that is what made human beings more superior than the angels. It's for those who obey God despite having been given free will to do whatever they want. For example, a lot of Muslims could drink alcohol, but they do not want to drink alcohol, despite the benefits, and scientific research have shown there are benefits to alcohol. But the Quran mentions that the Quran mentions this as well. There's benefit to alcohol, but the harm outweighs the benefit, and that is why it is haram. Okay, and we know that from scientific research and academic journals and publications that drinking alcohol consistently, which a lot of people do, will lead you to cancer, and so various kinds of diseases and cancer. And so it is better to prevention is better than cure, because before it's too late. Not a lot of people will actually go to the doctor and get periodic checkups, blood tests, and so on and so forth, because it is quite expensive. At least in my country, it is quite expensive, and so people would wait, and then they're neglectful of their health. But if we prevent all these things in the first place, then we are pretty much safe to begin with. But then again, it is God, it is Allah. When I say Allah, Allah is basically Ha Theos. In Greek, it is the God. Okay, Al-Ilah means the God. Okay, Allah is not the name of God. It is basically the Arabic name for the God. Again. And so that is Surah Al-Fatiha. It starts with praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the creator of the heavens and the earth and whatsoever in between, and everything belongs to Him, and He is the originator. He is the unoriginated originator, and according to the words of the church fathers, He is the only one unbegotten. And that is absolutely true. Surah Al-Ikhlas confirmed that God doesn't beget, nor is He begotten. Okay, and so the early church fathers got it right. Origen got it right. Arius got it right. And He is eternal. Okay, Eusebius of Caesarea got it right. Eusebius of Nicomedia got it right. And so these early Christians, I believe they're Muslim in a sense. And this is what it means. Muslim is those who submit their will to God. Now, even though Eusebius of Caesarea and all these later church fathers, they have a problem with the Aqidah, um, but that doesn't mean that they're not Muslim. Even today, Muslims have a lot of problem in their Aqidah, and but they have no problem. Eusebius of Caesarea in origin have no problem in their Tawheed, and that is they believe that there is only one supreme eternal being, and so and this is the language that they use, even though they're influenced by Greek philosophy, just like the Mu'tazila, but they're still considered Muslim. Even on the fringes, even on the people with the most problems in their Aqidah, we cannot disregard that they are Muslims, because they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messengers. They don't make any distinctions between Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Noah, Dawood, David, Solomon, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them all. May the peace and blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon them all. And so we don't make distinction amongst the Anbiya of Allah, meaning the Prophet of God. We don't make any distinctions between them. We revere all of them, but we do not worship them. Eusebius of Caesarea do not worship Jesus, nor does Arius and Origen. Even early on, Irenaeus of Lyon, Justin Martyr, Polycarp of Smyrna, Ignatius of Antioch, these people, even Tertullian in the West, even though he was the very first to coin the term Trinitas, basically Trinity, but according to Dr. Dale Tuggy, it is a Trinity with a small t. It is not a majuscule T, it is a minuscule T there, meaning it is not speaking about the triune God. Okay, Tertullian obviously have a misunderstanding because he is using Stoic philosophy to understand the concept of God. Because in Stoicism, everything is material, but God is immaterial. Because anything that is material means they exist in this world, like the planets, the constellation, and things like that. They're all material. Even things that are unseen, they're material, because they're within the realm of this world. It doesn't mean that you can't see them, meaning they're not immaterial, meaning they're not material. But only God, who is beyond time and space and material concept. But according to Tertullian, God is spirit, pneuma. Obviously, Tertullian wrote in Latin, so he would have used the term Deus. And there's a lot of misunderstanding there, because Latin doesn't have a definite article, and so some people read Deus and they translate it as majuscule D. But what Tertullian was speaking about, besides the one true God, it should be a small d or small g, and I say. But anyway, that's besides the point. As you are probably aware, I will make some comparison going back and forth between the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, and the Quran, because that is how I would like to approach this topic. Now, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, the cow. Based on my reading of this chapter is called the cow because it is in reference to the Israelites, about the worship the golden calf, and also they asked Moses. Moses asked them to find calf or cow to slaughter, and then they go back and forth between Moses, asking what color should a cow be, or it shouldn't have any blemishes, and things like that. So according to my opinion, this is why the surah is called the cow, obviously. Allahu Alam. Now, the first verse, Alif Lam Mim, no one knows this meaning. And this is one of the miracles of the Quran. And that because human beings like to think that they're very smart. that they are super smart, especially those people that have a lot of knowledge. If you realize that people that have a lot of knowledge, they're the one most astray from the path of Allah. Majority of the time, if you analyze all these huge professors out there, mostly they're all, almost all of them are atheists. Astronomy, I'm very interested in astronomy. I study the constellation. I'm very interested in astronomy from a very young age. I actually wanted to be an astronomer, but we do not have that field in my country, so I have to resort to something else. And so Alif Lam Mim, people say human beings thought that they're so smart, and so Allah revealed Alif Lam Mim. I mean, this is my interpretation of it, obviously, so that human beings can be humbled, or God can humble human being and say that since you think you are so smart, then tell me the meaning of Alif Lam Mim. No one will be able to do it. These are just three alphabets. Alif, Lam, and Mim. They're three alphabets. They're not even a huge paragraph or difficult words that you'll find in English, or even something ambiguous like parakletos in the Greek. But Alif, Lam, Mim. Come on. If you're so smart, figure out what it means. No one knows what it means. And so human beings should be humble. We should not think that we're smarter than God, because God is the one who grants us knowledge. And so even if we have knowledge about astronomy, astrophysics, we study the pyramids and we speculate what the pyramids could have been, this and that, but yet we couldn't even tell the meaning of just three alphabets. Just like Jesus said in the infancy gospel of Thomas, what is the meaning of Alpha? What is the meaning of Beta? What is the meaning of Omega, if I'm not mistaken? And so the teacher couldn't even know what is the meaning of this. And so in the end, Jesus has to teach the teacher. Now this is apocrypha. I do not regard this as historical, but it is nonetheless it is a great example. If you are someone who likes to find parallel amongst the three Abrahamic scripture, then it is actually something very interesting, because when you read the Quran, you can somehow reference to these apocryphal books that not a lot of Christians know about. And so it is very interesting sometimes, because if you have it in here, and then sometimes it make me smug on myself, by myself. Now this is a book, the Quran here, whereby there is no doubt in it. Okay, and this is a guidance for those who are pious. What does piety basically means? Now, piety basically means someone who follows, who obeys the commandment of God, who obeys just like Torah mentions. Okay, all these laws are for you, so that God may grant you success, so that God may be pleased with you, so that God may help you. Okay. It is the Lord your God who have taken you out of the land of Egypt. And this is something that the Quran referenced in later on in Surah Al-Baqarah, whereby God says that, O children of Israel, children of Jacob, I have favored you amongst all the nations at that time. Now, what does this really mean? We will get to that. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions that every community will send a prophet. Sorry, this is the hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that every community will send a prophet. So there's a lot of misunderstanding here. So if God chose the Israelites, does that mean that God did not send a prophet to the Romans, to the Greek, to the Mesopotamians? This is definitely not true, because God sent a prophet. And if you look at the early Greek philosophers, let's take from Plato, for example, and Aristotle, which, since we do not have their writings, The original writings obviously have been lost, and the Muslims were the one who actually preserved during the House of Wisdom, the Abbasid era. Muslims started translating Greek into Arabic, and then it was later translated back, and then translated to English, and that is how West philosophy remains with us today. If not, it would have been lost, because the church fathers, they don't dislike philosophy. They never copy philosophy. They would rather copy scripture, because it was very expensive to produce books in the ancient world, and so they do not copy philosophy. But it was the Muslim who copied the works of Aristotle, of Plato, and so that is how these works were actually preserved. Okay, apart from archaeological dig whereby we found manuscripts and things like that, but they were copied later on by Muslims. Now, if you look at Plato and Aristotle, in a sense, textual critic believe that their writings have probably undergone changes, but if you analyze their writings, you can somehow find that they're actually quite monotheists, even though their concept of God, their aqidah, their somewhat their theology, but since we do not have the original writings, and this is what I found, having studied their writings, I think part of them believe that there's only one God, especially Aristotle. And Arian was influenced by Aristotle, at least later on, and the early church fathers as well. Neoplatonism as well. But there can only be one unoriginated being, and this is the Aristotelian philosophy. Two unoriginated being is a contradiction. And so anyone who believes that there is only one God and everything else is subordinate to him, that is actually the theology of the Muslim. Leaving aside their aqidah and things like that, because that is secondary. But if you have a sound tawheed, you have one foot in the right path. I would say even more than one foot, because everything else is secondary. Because God forgives everything else, unless you die upon shirk. If you don't die upon shirk, then you are subjected to God's mercy. You will earn God's mercy. And that is the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the most merciful God. You don't need to sacrifice your son in order for your sins to be erased. If someone kills one of your son, then you have to sacrifice the other son. It just doesn't make sense, at least to me. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to the Christian brethren, but the Jews and the Muslims will not agree with you, because God is the one who creates. Islamic theology indicates that God is the one who forgives, and the people would claim that, oh, then why do you need to sacrifice cow or camel? But it is not the sacrifices that reaches God. It is the deed, and the Quran is very clear in this. It is not the sacrifice. This is not like libation, or this is not like how the pagan used to do it, whereby they sacrifice God and then they read into the entrails and to see if God accepts their sacrifices or not. And if you study early Judaism, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But this has nothing to do. This is the misunderstanding of the pagans and the early Jews, according to the Quran. But it is actually your deeds. It is the deeds. It is your willingness to obey God's commandment. That is the thing that reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not the sacrifices that you do. No, God doesn't eat. God doesn't need to eat food. God doesn't need to eat. And this is very clear because Allah says that Mary and Jesus, may peace of Allah be upon them all, they both ate food. And so why is Allah making this point? And that is because to show the contrary, that Mary and Jesus cannot be God because they ate food. And so this basically means that God doesn't eat. And so the sacrifices is not for God to eat the meat. Okay, rather it is the deeds that reaches God. And this is the pagan understanding as well. Okay, the pagan understanding as well. Some pagans, I would say, but some pagans, but again, paganism in a sense, whereby if you study paganism, they sacrifice so that their household gods or the god of the land will be pleased with them, and they also think that these sacrifices is like a food for the god. In some sense, we cannot be we cannot take this literally because I mean, how would we know, right? But they sacrifice because they want to appease the god. And that is the reason why early Christians are being persecuted, because they do not want to sacrifice. And because of famine in the land, Christians are being blamed because the pagans believe that Christians have angered their gods. And that is why like Constantine had a battle with Lysinus, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, moving on here. Now, this is a book for those who believe that the hereafter is certain. Basically, for those of you, because these are all part of the unseen, the afterlife, the Sadducees, they don't believe in the afterlife. I don't think there's any groups of Muslims who don't believe in Yawmul Qiyamah and Akhirah. And so I don't, if anyone knows, please let me know. Then how can that person even be considered a Muslim, right? Because why do you accept parts of the Quran and reject the other? Quran is very clear in this as well. And those people are disbelievers. Okay. And so this is also, again, now I'm trying to pick and choose passages here that I can draw parallel with Judaism and Christianity. And for those of you who are giving da'wah, you can probably find the first 15 or 20 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah helpful for you. And that is because that for those people who are arrogant, God have set a seal on their hearts because of what they earn. And that is because they used to mock Allah, they used to be jestful. When you invite them to Islam, they mock you. They say that, oh, this is nothing but false. And then in front of you, they will say, okay, we believe in you. But then when they goes back to the shayateen, meaning when they are amongst themselves, and the devils will come to them and whisper in their hearts, or they are just jesting. Now, the word shayateen here doesn't basically means jinn. The word shayateen basically can refer to human being as well. Someone that is evil, like absolutely evil, like people who engages in black magic, for example. We will come to that verse whereby they accuse Solomon of committing black magic, but then it is the devil who commits blasphemy. Solomon doesn't commit blasphemy, but we have no parallel in this in the Torah, in the book of 1st, 2nd Samuel. We do not have parallel in this in 1 Samuel to 2 Kings, and so this is unique to the Quran. But what does this tell us? This tells us that Solomon was a Jewish prophet. So does his father Dawood. Peace and blessing of Allah be upon them all. But just to correct here, it is not peace and blessings of Allah be upon them all. It is may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon them all. We should add the word may here, because we are not the one who give barakah. And there's a lot of people, even Muslims, fall into these problems actually. This is very huge, even tremendous problem. And that is whenever someone sneezes, they say, bless you. This is absolutely terrible thing to say. This is a terrible thing to say, because no one gives barakah. Yet no one gives barakah. For example, when and then they would say, some people would say, oh, then why do you seek the blessings of your parents if you want to get married, for example? But that is a different kind of thing. That is not like a blessing, as in you giving barakah. That is basically seeking approval. And some people have misunderstood it. Again, the choice of words here is very important. We should seek approval and not blessings, because no one gives barakah besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so when someone wants to get married, they seek quote unquote the blessings from their parents. That's basically, or their wali, meaning their guardian. They basically seek approval, not seek barakah, because it is only Allah who grants barakah. It is only Allah who grants rizq, who grants what is rizq in English? I don't know. I can't find the translation here. But I don't know, like wealth, property. Again, what is the translation for rizq? But anyway, judging from how well we're doing with time here, I don't think I'll be able to complete this in one video. So anyway, let's find another verses that we can see parallel from the New Testament and the Hebrew Bible here. We'll probably do 2 parts or even 4 parts for one Jews. This is a very good verse as well. The New Testament uses parables, but the Quran uses parables as well. And upon my studies, I found that parables are mostly primitive sayings. And so I do give a huge degree or a huge regard to the New Testament parables. And I deem them quite primitive in a sense. Because if you look at the parables in the New Testament is very unique, because none of the writings in the New Testamental era uses parables. None of the writings of the church fathers uses the degree of parables that we found in the New Testament. And even like the parable of prodigal son, the parable of the mustard seed, the parable of there's a lot of parables here. They're quite primitive in a sense, because the early writers, or any writings outside, like include church fathers, patristic, apostolic fathers, and things like that, they don't use parables. And philosophers, they don't use parable quite to the degree that the New Testament parables use them. And if you analyze the parables found in the synoptics, because synoptics are very primitive, you find that Matthew, Mark, and Luke, their parables is pretty much standard. And so parables is something that we can use as a very strong point to say that this must have led to, this must have at least be a reinterpretation of the Injil. Now, the question of the Injil here, maybe I wanted to address this when we get to Jesus, but might as well I give a brief summary here. It should suffice. And I don't believe that the Injil was ever written down. And I don't believe that the Injil is as extensive as the Hebrew Bible or as extensive as the New Testament or as extensive as the Quran, because Jesus was an Israelite prophet. Okay, and the Torah is basically the commandment. Um, I do not accept the Hebrew Bible to be the books revealed to Moses, and I do not accept Deuteronomy to be revealed to Moses, um, because Deuteronomy is basically a rewriting of the first four books. Um, but and I accept the book of Genesis to Numbers, um, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, but we do have to take a look at certain passages, because according to Richard Elliott Friedman, they were probably written around the year 900 or 800. Um, Also, but no doubt certain passages do go back to Moses, for especially the laws. And I would also take parables as a very strong contenders to be um, not the exact word from the Injil, but to be somewhat goes back to the Injil of Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. Moving on here, there are people who claim that they're basically trying to make peace on earth, but in fact they are the ones who actually cause a lot of mischief. Now, again, I do not find any parallels to this in the Hebrew Bible. If there is, please let me know. But let's use this verse to understand the modern context. Now, today's abortion rights, for example, Roe v. Wade in the US. People are actually protesting for abortion, because now they can no longer have abortion. And abortion is prohibited in Islam, absolutely prohibited, because it is still life. Okay, and this is the normative consensus. Any Muslims who want to abort a child, it is not permissible unless their life is at risk, or they have a very, 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 very good reason for doing so. But then again, a child is actually a risk from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the child in the future could help you. You might struggle with the child for the first 20 years of his or her lives, but then again, when the help of Allah is always near. It could take 20 years, but 20 years of suffering and eternal bliss, which one would you take? A lot of people, and this is the hadith as well, and this person suffers his entire life, and when he gets to Jannah, when the question is being asked to him, he would say that I've never suffered even a single bit. Okay, and this is the hadith. And Allah will test you in loss of life, in wealth, in many other things. But your risk, again, how do I translate this? Your wealth or whatever it is, your sustenance. I think this is not the right translation, but we'll go with this. Your sustenance it has been confirmed. Okay, when you die, it is all confirmed, and there is not a single thing that you can do. Obviously, these are all unseen. Okay, but some people would take the I would call it the ignoble act, or the ignoble route, or the unhonorable act, and that is via gambling, via cheating, selling things at an exorbitant price. They would extort other people, and they would cheat other people. For example, I was just recently in a country other than mine on a holiday there, and they charge a different price to me just because I come from this country. They charge me double the price of what the locals would actually pay. And so this is something that is all impermissible in Islam, because you are basically extorting the your customer, and you are lying and you are deceiving your customer. And uh, when you buy when you for example, if I buy peanuts, for example, and they go by kilograms, this is just hypothetical, um, but this is in Surah 80, if I'm not mistaken, 81 and on 79. Before Abasa wa Tawalla, uh, before Naziat, even if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember the surah. But basically, it is when they put their goods on a scale, they are not honest. For example, if I want to buy things for 1 kilogram, they only give me 900 gram, for example. These are all impermissible things. Selling things at a very, very, very high price, it is not permissible. For example, if I buy this phone stand for $2, and then I sold it for $100 or $50, or probably $15 or $20 even, and this is not permissible, because you are basically extorting your customer. You are lying, and you are deceiving. And so people should be more honest here. There is a shop near my house that have been going on for 20 years, and the prices goes up, but they still remain they go up, but they go up by 20 cent, by 10 cent, by 30 cent, by 50 cent. They don't go up by double, and Allah has blessed them for 20 years. For 20 years, their shops have been consistently growing. If you look at it on a graphic scale, there's no like straight revenue and then go down. No, it is gradual increase, and this is this is one of the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereby if you fear Allah, He will definitely provide for you, because to Him belongs your risk, your sustenance. The hadiths, just like a bird who goes out in the morning and then comes back with a full stomach, and if you work hard, Allah will protect you. Allah will take care of you. There's no need for you to gamble and things like that. Look at all those people who gambles. They earn a lot of money, but most of them will suffer later on in their lives, because if there's no barakah, if there's no blessings in the wealth that you earn, it will go out like water, in a sense. And this is very true. I've seen this. There's the people around us is an example for us to take lessons from. If you really want wealth, if you really want success, then seek the owner of success and obey the commandments of God, and don't ever miss Salah. Don't leave Salah aside. As a Muslims, this is my opinion, our life should revolve around Salah. If we have to go and watch a movie at 7 p.m. and we know that the azan for Maghrib will be 7:10, then we should refuse to watch movie. We should give importance to Salah, because that is the second most important thing besides the Shahada, after the Shahada. Because what separates between the believers and the non-believers is actually the Salah, the prayers. Now, again, drawing comparison to this, Jesus prostrate at the Garden of Gethsemane, although this is in Mark and Matthew. In Luke, it is a different story. Jesus never falls face down on the ground. This is only in Mark and Matthew. Obviously, Matthew follows 80% of Mark, and the other 20% is from Q and M. And so Jesus prostrate his face to the ground. Apart from the Syriac Orthodox Church, none of the other churches actually, Christians, none of the other Christians actually practice this. They don't recite their liturgy in the language of the New Testament, which in Greek. But then again, Jesus never spoke Greek. Why would a fisherman from Galilee spoke Greek or speak Greek? Why would the disciples speak Greek? No doubt, the Greeks and people from in and around the Mediterranean would probably go to Jerusalem to witness the Passover. Even pagans would be there because there is an annual festival. It's just like Christmas today. Even the Muslims would celebrate this. Personally, I don't celebrate this. But even the Muslims would take part in this. But your niyyah is very important. Why are you there? Again, the community where I'm from, I don't find any rulings on this, but the majority of the ulama in the what do you call it, in the Arabian Peninsula, do not actually allow the celebration of other people's festival. But your niyyah is very important. Like, why are you there to begin with? But the question must be asked, like, why are you there only during Christmas and things like that? So, but then again, I'm not someone who gave fatwa. But personally, I don't celebrate. If you want to celebrate, lakum dinukum waliyadin, even if you're a Muslim. But personally, I don't celebrate. But if you want to celebrate, lakum dinukum waliyadin. You have your way and I have mine. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be the judge between us in Yawmul Qiyamah. And Allah is the Hakim. He is the fairest of judges. Brothers and sisters, I will have to end this video here today because I don't think we can cover the entire Jews in one part. But no doubt this is something interesting to do, to draw lessons and to do a comparison between the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, and the Quran. But before I end it here, I'm encouraging all Muslims out there to study the Hebrew Bible, to study the New Testament, obviously to study the Quran first. But studying is a lifelong journey. You will never stop reading the New Testament, the Hebrew Bible, and the Quran. You will never stop reading them until you pass away, until you return to your Lord. And so we should not leave it aside. The reason why it is very important to study the Hebrew Bible, to study the New Testament, and to study the Quran, and that is because the Torah and the Injil are pretty much the Zabur, but I don't think the Psalm is the Zabur. I don't think the Psalms that we have is the Zabur, because the language is it is like poetry, and I don't believe that Dawood alayhi salam is a musician, is a poet. I don't believe that. Why would the Anbiya of Allah be a poet? Obviously, I'm using evidence from the Quran here that Muhammad wasn't a poet. May all peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. And so I don't believe that the Anbiya of Allah were ever poets or were ever philosophers. No doubt they're very smart people, but I don't think they're poets. I think this is a disrespectful term to use for someone. That Dawood alayhi salam play a lyre, a musical instrument, whereas musical instruments is prohibited apart from drums. But anyway, before I end this video, I encourage you to learn the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, because there's a lot of animosity between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, especially nowadays between Judaism and Islam. with especially what's happening in Israel, Palestine, Israel. We are all fighting for that land because the Muslims revere that land, because that land was the site whereby the Prophet Muhammad SAW, he ascended he ascended beyond the seventh heaven. But Jews revere that land because that is where their temple used to be, and the Christians, I mean, they don't revere their land as much, even though Jesus came from that part of the world. But we should be careful here that the fighting is only there, and pretty much Jews and Muslims living peacefully throughout the other parts of the world. And we should be careful not to incite hatred amongst the other religion, because this is absolutely prohibited, especially as a Muslim. We should practice peace and tolerance, and we should have a dialogue. What's missing here, and the reason why I do this, to upload these videos on YouTube, I started a YouTube channel dedicated for this purpose, and that is to have a dialogue, not a debate. A debate, people would lose a debate, or people would make a mockery during debates, and so there's no hikmah in the debates. There's no wisdom in debating unless we have two parties that are absolutely serious about finding the truth, and not just to debate for the sake of winning. The more better way to approach would be to have a discussion, but as the Quran taught us, but the discussion should be based on that the conditions should be based on that we worship none besides Allah, and that we are calling you, meaning the non-Muslims, towards Allah and His book, and we should come to common terms with them. The Quran gave a very good advice on how we should engage with the people that are non-Muslims. It is a very, very important advice, a very good advice, and the advice that will 100% work. But we have to do our work here. The reason why I study the Hebrew scripture and the New Testament more than the Hebrew scripture, and that is because we should come to common terms with the Jews and the Christians, but we should never worship what they worship, okay? And to them be their way, and to ours be our way. We should agree to disagree, and if there is no room for us to agree on, like for example, we disagree that Jesus is God, Yesus niet Bog, as how the Russians Muslims would say it, and so we would never agree to worship Jesus. We revere Jesus as a prophet, as one of the Rasul, because he brought with him the Injil. He is not just a prophet, he is a messenger, even though these two terms can be used interchangeably. But we revere Jesus. He is one of the mightiest messenger. He is amongst the top 5 most revered human beings to ever exist. Yes, I use the word human beings, and that is the beliefs of the early church fathers, that Jesus is just a human being. That is the belief of Matthew and Luke. But anyway, I'll end this video here. Part 1 will continue with part 2, inshallah ta'ala, in the coming few days, bismillah ta'ala. My name is Arfat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.